What's going on, you guys? My name is Yuki Murai. I'm a transformational coach. I'm an energy healer, and I help you heal in mind, body, and soul so that you can realize your true potential. Today we'll be talking about the mind and the body, or the ego and the soul, and how they both work together in harmony and is constantly guiding you to your most authentic path. So there's been a lot of research coming out through neuroscience, epigenetics, anatomy, physiology, quantum physics, that our body actually has an electromagnetic field and vibration. And this could be measured by certain instruments, such as the gas discharge machine from Russia. There are many different instruments that measure the frequency. Some may call it the energy, the vibration, the aura. If you look at Carillion photography, if you look that up, basically it measures the frequency and the aura coming off of said subject. So they've done studies to where they study the frequencies of different foods, right? And when you look at a healthy organic apple under the Carillion photography, it's bright, vibrant, colorful waves of aura that's coming off of that apple, right? And when you look at an unhealthy piece of meat, the frequency or the aura coming off of that meat was more dull, darker. It was more of a grayish black color, right? As opposed to the apple with the life force energy and the biophotons, it was radiating colors of yellow, orange, red, blue, purple, just radiating with the aura. Similarly, our bodies have this electromagnetic frequency that emanates up to 3 meters wide around our body and within our body. And usually anything going on in our body that's out of discord or harmony is a direct reflection or a result of our vibration and our frequency lowering in our body. And we talked about that in a previous video, how our thoughts and feelings and emotions and how we perceive them and work with them can either lower or raise your frequency. But today we're going to be talking about two different intelligence in the body, right? Some may call it the mind, your thoughts, your thinking brain, right? Some may call it your soul, heart-based intelligence, or your emotional brain, right? So there's two different intelligences that are constantly working either in your favor or to your detriment. And the most important thing you can do is to develop the relationship between each intelligence and to be able to decipher which is which, right? So usually when we think about our mind or our ego, it's usually based in survival, right? It's usually based in lower dimensional. When you think about those chakras, you're thinking about your root chakra and your sacral chakra, right? Your survival needs, your basic human needs for survival. And it's constantly trying to keep you safe in this world, in the here and now. So when you have intrusive thoughts, when you have thoughts that don't even make sense, right? That come out of left field, usually that's coming out of your ego or your mind, right? And what it's trying to do is trying to protect you, right? It's like an anxious best friend that doesn't know how to communicate well, but ultimately is trying to have your best interest, right? Maybe it's screaming at you, it's yelling at you, maybe it's calling you names, but at the end of the day, what it's trying to do is trying to protect you, right? Cares about you, but it doesn't have the wherewithal and the maturity to communicate so that your soul can understand it, right? So a lot of people get stuck in that facet of their thinking and feeling, right? And they're controlled by that egoic mind, right? Those thought-based loops, and then the thinking brain, right? Usually coming from the head. And anything coming from the head or the ego or the thinking brain usually is not the truth, right? Or maybe it may be a partial truth, but it's fabricating it and exaggerating it so that it can get your attention in the moment, right? So it thinks it's doing the best for you, but ultimately it may be harming you more than making you prosper. I hope this is landing so far. And now we go to the heart-based intelligence. When you think about the gut and the heart, that's usually within this region here is where the soul resides, right? If you think about the new studies coming out of the Heart Math Institute, incredible work they're doing over there. And they're talking about how the heart has a literal brain within it, right? And they're called, there's neurons in the brain called sensory neurites that actually communicate from the heart up to the brain, right? And we were always taught in neuroscience and neurology that the brain is the master control center and that the brain actually controls the entire body. But now new research is coming out that the heart is actually the master controller, and the heart communicates up to the brain up to 10 times more than the brain communicates down to the heart. So actually, the basis of your consciousness and your soul is within your heart, right? Not that the brain that doesn't do amazing work, but it's a constant harmonizing and unison of the body intelligence and the mind intelligence, and then the heart, the gut, and the brain, right? In psychology, some people may call it top-down processing versus bottom-up processing, right? Using your thoughts to change your physiology, right? As opposed to going into the body so that the body can communicate up to your brain, right? So being able to decipher which is which will be a crucial part of your awakening and healing, right? Because the heart-based intelligence is like a grandmother intelligence, right? It's a motherly figure. It's a godly figure. Anything that wants the highest of your best interest at all times, and it always knows what you need in the moment, right? And it's constantly trying to communicate with you. So the heart will never lie to you, right? And the gut as well. That's why that old phrase that goes, it was a gut instinct, it was a gut feeling, right? It's that knowing within you. You can't really tangibly put it into words, but whenever you go against it, usually you get burned on the other side, right? And everybody's had an experience to where they've had a moment. Maybe they were going to do something. They were going to go hang out with somebody. Maybe it was an intimate relationship, and they knew it was the wrong thing. They had that gut instinct. They had that heart-based intelligence speaking up. But then they overrid it with what was going on in the ego and the mind. And as a result, they got burned on the other end. And what do they say after that? I wish I would have listened to my intuition, right? Everybody's had that experience, right? And science is starting to have terminology for this, right? But ancient mystic and spiritual traditions have been talking about it for thousands of years, right? The Bible mentions the word heart over 250 times. If I might be wrong on the exact number, but something crazy to where it mentions it so many different times. And other cultures have always talked about the intelligence in the heart, right? Chinese medicine, they talk about heart-based intelligence as well. I believe they call it shen, if I'm not mistaken, right? So ancient cultures already were tapped into this wisdom, right? And science is finally catching up to what the masters that preceded us were talking about for eons, right? So now we're able to really decipher what's actually going on, right? And given what I talked about, that the heart has a brain, the heart has an intelligence that's constantly trying to communicate with you, and it's constantly getting feedback from your internal chemistry and your environment, notifying you if you're safe or if this is the right move for you in the moment, right? And I think that we live in a society that praises being up here, right? We try to solve everything analytically in our minds by problem solving, right? It's very, very left brain dominant, right? It's very like ABCs. That's why science is booming so much, because without the tangible evidence, people cannot wrap their heads around it, because we've become so detached from the intelligence that's already within us, the divine wisdom, and we've pretty much cut ourselves off of that body and that somatic intelligence. So we're living in our heads all day. We're trying to analyze our way out of our problems. That's why therapy is booming so much. People think they could just talk their way out of their problems all day. Not to say therapy doesn't have a time and place. I think it's very profound to be able to speak through your problems, to be able to see patterns and pattern recognition, so that you can implement the changes in your life, shift belief systems, shift thought patterns, interrupt certain thoughts that are not serving us, right? Becoming aware, creating space between you and your problems so that you can make the necessary changes. So I'm not knocking. I did therapy for years, and it definitely was a crucial part in my healing, but it wasn't the whole piece, I would say it was probably 20-25% at the most, right? I was able to dissect and learn a lot about myself, and I was able to implement those pattern recognitions and changes into my life. But ultimately, I had to connect back to my heart intelligence and get back into the body, and marry the body intelligence and the somatic work with also the top-down work with the thoughts and processing through the brain, right? So I think this marriage is crucial to become an individuated person, like Carl Jung would have said, right? So if you're missing this connection to the heart and your somatic divine wisdom, then you may make decisions that are irrational. You may act off of impulse instead of your sovereignty, your free will, and what you actually need in the moment. Because everything that you need in the moment is already within you, and the divine wisdom within you is trying to communicate that with you 24/7, right? But if we cut off from that, if we numb ourselves, if we distract too much, if we run away from that intelligence because we've labeled it too overwhelming, we don't have time for it, then what that does is we push that wisdom down. And just like an inner child, and when you push down the divine spark in a child and shut them down, what do? They scream even louder. And then this wisdom continues to try to get our attention. And if we don't listen, that's what leads to chronic symptoms, anxiety, depression, autoimmune, many different facets, right? Or many different flavors of suffering that people go through because we've cut off from this intelligence, right? And we can only survive in that egoic mind for so long before we collapse and crash down, right? We could only run on that hamster wheel for so long, right? Thinking we know what's good by believing our thoughts in our mind, right? And just powering through without coming back to the wisdom. So the mind and body are meant to work in unison. The ego and the soul are meant to marry each other because we need both. Without the ego, we won't be able to survive either. Without the ego, I would not be able to differentiate between me and you on the other side of the screen, right? I would not be able to meet my survival needs through the day so that I could continue my life, right? So the ego isn't bad either. But when we get stuck in that paradigm and that level of thinking and operating, then we end up losing a lot of delicious, beautiful flavors of our life. And we end up making decisions from this impulsive, reactive, survival paradigm instead of this open, loving, and surrendered, coming out of love instead of coming out of fear, right? Because everything that's coming from the mind and the ego is usually based off of fear. It's usually based off of survival, fear, and you trying to compete, you trying to win, you trying to get what you need. And you see how it's a very sympathetic, chaotic energy, right? If you ever really examine your mind in meditation or just sit with it, and if you objectively watch your thoughts, you'd be blown away. You'd be like, what the fuck? Did I just really say that? Or did I just really think that? And it blows your mind, like how quickly the thoughts come in, how erratic they are. And sometimes, most of the time, it doesn't even make sense. It has nothing to do with what's going on in the moment, but it's designed for that. It's designed for it to get your attention, right? To get your attention, to keep you comfortable, protected, and safe so that you can survive another day, right? So it's not about getting rid of either one of these, right? It's about knowing when to be able to use and facilitate each one. And when it comes to the most important decisions in your life, you usually want to come back to the heart-based intelligence and the soul. Because the soul is like a grounded grandmother, right? Whenever you sit in front of your grandmother, if you had the privilege of having them around during your life, usually it's a very comforting, nurturing, grounded presence. There's zero judgment, and it's just unconditional love. And they just see you exactly as you are. And usually they've lived enough life and experience to where they can give you exactly what you need in that moment. And you guys know, if you've ever had any in-depth conversations with your grandmother, even grandfather, right? They usually know exactly what you need. Sometimes our ego comes in and we don't take heed of it and we're not able to implement it, right? But that wisdom is always within us, right? And we've become so disconnected from it, right? The heart, the soul, is our divine compass, right? And I was cut off from this for my entire life, right? I was always rushing, distracting, numbing. I was always suppressing this divine wisdom within me because I felt like I couldn't handle it. It was too much, right? And it's usually speaking the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts, right? It's not what you want to hear in the moment, right? But it's always what you need. And when we humble ourselves and surrender to this God-given intelligence within us, then we're able to make decisions for our highest good, even if it may be uncomfortable and you may dislike the feeling in the moment. It may not be the most pleasurable. It may not be the most gratifying instantly. It may take a little bit more time, but the heart is patient, but the body is patient, right? The mind wants instant fixes. The ego wants instant fixes, right? And when we operate from the ego and the mind, we operate from that framework of instant gratification, of rushing, sympathetic tone in the nervous system, and we end up not creating a life out of free will, out of sovereignty and authenticity, but usually we get caught up in the turmoil of what's going on around us, right? And what I did to be able to establish this relationship back with that intelligence and that soul was deep reflective work through meditation, through establishing safety within my body again, regulating my nervous system, right? Slowing down, right? Making decisions from this calm, centered, parasympathetic state, right? Breathing into my heart, breathing into my body, and really checking in with my body frequently, checking in with that heart-based intelligence frequently, so that I was able to establish mind and body again. And I slowed down enough. I created enough safety in my nervous system and in my body. And I started developing a relationship with it again, right? Because just like a little child, it takes time to develop that trust and that relationship. Or like a pet, right? If you've ever had a dog or a cat, usually it takes some time to develop that trust and that relationship before that animal trusts us and is able to open to us. And from that openness, the wisdom and the love from that dog, we're actually able to feel, right? And the dog is able to feel that as well. And now we're in that heart-based intelligence. But we've lost that compassion and that love for ourselves, right? And we're going at a speed that's way too quick for the heart intelligence and the body to catch up, right? We're going through our day, similar routines. We get up, we drink our coffee, we brush our teeth, we go in the shower, we put on the same clothes, and then we go to work. We do the same shit at work day after day, talking to the same fucking people, right? And then we eat the same lunch in the same cubicle that we sit in, right? And then we go take a walk in the park, the same park, and we go in the same fucking route, right? And then we leave work, and then we're scrolling through social media, we're watching our favorite show on Netflix, we're talking to our friend, the same friend, talking about the same old things. And you see how we get in a rut. We get into this rhythm of life where we go through the motions and we're just operating out of our head, right? And we never check in with what's going on in our body. And our bodies are constantly trying to speak to us. But when we live at a pace and when we live disconnected for far too long, then that wisdom gets shut down. And when that wisdom gets shut down, we're not able to access what it's trying to communicate, right? So the mind is powerful, but the body is even more powerful, right? And especially if you're driven by your masculine, and women and men both have masculine and feminine, right? And as a society, typically right now, most people are driven in their masculine, right? Even women are tilting towards that, the masculine side. Not to say it's right or wrong, right? But it's just this, we're all living in survival, right? So we're go after, right? Assertiveness, go after, right? And we stay in this energy of that warrior archetype, but then we never slow down to show love to the feminine side as well, right? And neither is right or wrong. But when it becomes imbalanced, that's where the problem happens. And that's the same thing with the mind and the body, the ego and the soul. When you operate from the ego for far too long, you end up missing the purpose of life. And now you're going through the motions. You're getting the job done. And this is what happens when people get everything they want in the external, right? They get the job, they get the relationship, they get the money, they get the cars, they get all that, but they're still deeply unfulfilled and depressed within their heart. And there's still a gaping hole in their heart because they've lost that intelligence to that godly wisdom within them, right? And when you lose that connection with your godly wisdom, there's a huge part of you that's not being heard, that's not being tended to, right? And where there's a huge part of you that's not being heard and not being tended to, then of course you're not going to feel fulfilled. Of course you're not going to feel that love in your heart. And of course you're not going to feel connected in your life. There's the pattern that I see with people that have been living in the ego and the mind and lost that connection to the body and the soul is on the extreme end. What happens is chronic health conditions, right? Severe panic attacks, anxiety, deep depression to where they can't get out of bed, crippling fatigue, chronic pain, right? Because they've disconnected from the intelligence, right? And their body starts breaking down as a result, right? And then on the more surface level, where it's not too extreme, is just a general malaise, general numbness, like this general buzzing of the sympathetic tone in the nervous system. It's just this general anxiety, right? And this feeling of it's not enough. Like no matter what I do, I can't take this feeling away. And I need to do more and achieve more in order to try to take this feeling away, but it never goes away. Because what's missing is not what's out there, right? It's not the relationship, it's not the money, it's not the cars, it's not the woman, it's not the man, it's not any of that external shit. What's missing is your connection to your soul, connection to your heart, right? What's missing is that feeling, right? You're not trying to get any of those external things. What you're trying to get is the feeling, right? Of satisfaction, fulfillment, happiness, joy, love. That's what you're trying to get. Connection, right? And in order to get that, right, you have to connect back to the heart, connect back to the body, and feel safe enough in order to receive it, right? Your nervous system has to be in a state of receivership, right? And how do you do that? We must come back into the body, connect with the body, regulate the nervous system, slow the brain waves down, right? And start to listen to the wisdom and develop that relationship. Then our body's able to feel safe enough. Oh, they're back. They're finally back. Now we could calm down. We could be present. Now we could actually enjoy the things that we're going after, right? Thinking that those things will do it for us, right? But none of that will save you. I'm telling you, none of that will save you, right? I was chasing that for my whole life. I was operating from the ego and the mind, thinking, if I just analyze enough, if I just control enough, if I just achieve enough, if I just compete enough, if I just fight enough, then I'll finally feel okay inside of me. But it was a negative self-fulfilling prophecy to where my belief was, when I achieve, when I get, when I go after, when I finally get to that end point, then I'll finally feel fulfilled and happy. But when I would get to that end point of whatever I wanted, let's say it was a relationship, I closed the deal in business, if I got a new client, it would actually make me more depressed and more empty, because what I was chasing that whole time with blood, sweat, and tears, thinking that it would take this feeling away, I actually felt exactly the same after. I may have felt a little bit better for 2-3 days. After that, the same familiar feeling of emptiness and the void came back. And then that taught me that, wow, what am I actually doing? Like, what the fuck am I living for, you know? I'm living for everybody else around me, thinking, living for society's blueprint of my life. Living exactly how the media, the society, everyone we looked up to when we were younger, all these famous people, right? Telling us that if we get to point A, finally we'll be happy. We live in a consumer society, consumerism society, to where we're constantly being fed. You're not good enough, so get this product. You're not good enough, so do this, right? You're somehow deficient, and God made you deficient the way you are. So buy this product, buy this service, buy this ABC, because you're somehow deficient and you're not enough, right? So we've been fed this and programmed since a young age that somehow how God created us is not sufficient and that we are not enough. And this is further enforced by our parents, by our teachers, by their negative reinforcement, the way they parented. They did their best, right? And sometimes they thought that that was love, but the child within us, with the underdeveloped brain, we took that to heart, and we thought, oh wow, I really am not enough. I really am not good enough, right? I really don't deserve love, right? So all of these external factors are shaping and molding our conditioning, our paradigm, and now we are operating solely from that ego and the mind, right? And we get trapped in that survival consciousness, right? And in that state, you may be able to survive, you may be able to get what you want, you may be able to have worldly success, right? But it comes at the expense of your soul, of your heart, and lasting fulfillment and love, right? That you're truly seeking, right? So it wasn't until I got deathly ill, right? I was diagnosed with 7 different health conditions, mental and physical, to where at my worst I was bedbound in a dark room, couldn't feed myself, could barely drink water. I my sitting up for a minute wiped me out for days, you know? I had to crawl to the bathroom. I was peeing in a bottle on the side of my bed. My mom would come and clean those bottles. She was coming in, you know, feeding me. I had lost 60 pounds, looked emaciated, like just gaunt. My face was gray, you know what I mean? I could barely remember sentences. My family would come in the room and I could barely remember who they were. Like, I couldn't string together coherent sentences. Like, I literally thought I had early stage dementia or Alzheimer's. I thought I had an incurable condition that would never go away. And every day, all I thought was, God, take me out of this misery. Please let me die today, right? Just, those were my thought loops. So I've experienced the depths of hell on this earth, right? That's why I now believe that heaven and hell are happening now, right? And it's usually happening in our mind, bodies, and in our consciousness, right? Two people could be in the same place, right? Like, this is where I'm filming right now. Like, look at this, guys. Incredibly blessed, incredibly grateful to be able to come out to this every day, right? To be able to be engulfed by the beautiful rays of sunshine, beautiful palm trees, incredible weather here in Southern California, right? If I was in that state where I was trapped in my mom's basement in that dark room, if I were to come out here, I would still feel like I'm dying, miserable. I would not be able to take in any of the beauty around me because of my consciousness and my state of being in that moment, right? So I'm going off some side tangents, but I want to tie it back to some personal examples so that I can really let it land for you how detrimental this disconnection can be on the extreme end. Like, and this is not any fear mongering, by the way. This is me just bringing awareness that if this goes too far, like, it could end up incredibly tragically like it did with me, right? To where, you know, I lost everything, right? I lost my health. I lost my business. I lost all my money. Yeah, I went into deep debt, right? I lost my car. I lost most of my friends, right? I damn near lost my family, but thank God, by the grace of God, they stuck with me, right? And this was a result of me operating from that egoic mind and that thinking brain, right? And that survival consciousness for far too long, right? Living inauthentically, not checking in with my soul and my heart-based intelligence, severing the relationship between that divine wisdom and intelligence. And as a result, my body was speaking, my body was screaming. I continued to suppress it. I continued to press it down. I continued to just push through, distract myself, numb, right? Just numbing myself with work, with women, with sex, with drugs, with alcohol, with over-exercising, you name it, you know, with achievement. And eventually my body had enough, right? I broke down, and it seemed like overnight my entire life was gone. My entire life was swept beneath me, and everything I had built to that point was completely wiped away overnight, it seemed like. But when I analyze, when I reflect, when I observe, this pattern was building over years and years and years, right? So it didn't just happen overnight, right? I didn't just get chronically, debilitatingly sick overnight. It was patterns that I built up ever since early childhood, and as a result of me not feeling safe in the world, safe in my body and my nervous system, I developed these coping strategies, right? These adaptive coping strategies, right? That kept me safe, kept me surviving and moving forward another day, right? And the mind is very, very clever. And it will really, really make you believe what it's telling you, right? And it will do whatever it can to get your attention. And the more you believe in it, the more you fall for it, and the more you get stuck in that consciousness, it's going to run your life, right? And when you run your life from your ego and that egoic mind, right, and that head-based intelligence, you're going to be making decisions that usually aren't for your highest accord. It's usually going to be based off of how other people perceive you, competition, survival, fighting, competing in order to get what you want, right? And that's all fine and dandy, right? But when you live in that paradigm, you may get what you want, but you're going to have to work really, really hard for it, right? You're going to have to grind, push. You're going to have to, compete, maybe knock some people off along the way in order to get what you want. And when you do get what you want, what's going to happen is, more often than not, you're not going to be fulfilled, right? Because the energy in which you went towards that was incongruent and disharmonious, right? You were not coming from your heart and your soul and that grounded, loving presence, right? And you were coming from that survival-based paradigm. And as a result, you were not able to enjoy the process, right? And you were just kind of going, pushing, and going towards that objective without being able to smell the flowers, smell the roses, and be present along the way. And it's not about what you get. It's about who you become in the process, right? It's about the process, not the end goal, right? But you can't enjoy the process if you're not in that heart-based loving energy. If you don't feel safe enough to come into the body and really actually feel the blessings, really actually let the blessings land, right? Really actually connect with the people that you're building with, really actually be present with the people that you're serving, right? Then what the fuck is the point, right? You eventually continue to run on that hamster wheel and continue to gratify that ego, and then you're 90 years old and you look around. You may have the nice car, you may have had all the incredible sexual experiences, you may have all the money in the world, but what happened? You lost your soul in the process, right? You weren't able to enjoy any of it. You never felt safe enough to connect, right? Your relationships were probably very surface level. Like, what can I get out of this? What is this person gonna do for me, right? What can I extract? Instead of deep, meaningful relationship, right? That's present, here in the now, filled with love, reciprocity, right? With no objective, right? So, you can see how operating from the ego without harmonizing it with the heart and the soul, there's always going to be an imbalance. In my case, it was deep suffering through chronic illness, right? Suffering that's unimaginable, right, to the average person. Like, I sometimes think, like, how the fuck am I still here, There were so many moments to where I wanted to, you know what I mean, terminate. God had other plans for me, though, right? And if you're at that point where it feels like there's no return, just know there's a way out. And if you're in between or at the beginning phases of it, to where you're starting to feel a little bit imbalanced, right? You're going about your day, but something just feels a little bit off. Whatever you do seems to not take that feeling away, right? Maybe temporarily, but the feeling eventually comes back, right? If you're constantly in anxiety, if you're rushing, and if you're going through your life in this fast-paced, chaotic manner, this is for you, right? And if you're living in the modern world, in the city, or anywhere in the West, chances are this is where you're operating from, right? It's not your fault. It's not. And you're not a bad person because of it, right? You just haven't been taught the frameworks, the skill sets, and felt safe enough to even receive that information. And we've all been there. I definitely have, right? So whatever phase you're in, if you're in the premature phase where it's starting to happen, if you're in that medium zone to where you're like, okay, like things are getting a little bit out of hand, right? Maybe all your relationships are fading away, you know? Maybe you're starting to have some symptoms in your body, right? Depression, anxiety, some pain. Maybe you have this void and emptiness throughout the day and nothing seems to take it away. What helped before is no longer helping, right? Or you may be in the extreme phase, right? And this is not to compare anybody's suffering, right? Because no matter what stage you're in, your suffering deserves a voice, right? So it's not about comparing anybody. If you're in that extreme zone of maybe deep chronic illness, anxiety and depression to the point where you cannot function, maybe it's deep addiction to substances and you can't function without drowning yourself in substances, you may need to go to rehab. If you're at that point, just know I've been there as well, right? And you can pull yourself out of it. But it starts with connecting with that intelligence. And this is why it's so important, because there's the surface level stuff. And I don't want to call it surface level because actually I believe this is one of the biggest purposes of life, right? Is to come back to that love and to come back to that deep fulfillment and presence within you so that you don't need anything external to fulfill that void, right? And connecting to the soul, the heart, and the body, and coming back to that wisdom, you're going to be able to enjoy the things that you already have deeply. You're going to be able to be more fulfilled with whatever you're doing already, right? And without changing anything externally, your life can shift dramatically by connecting back to the heart and that love and that safety and that connection between you and your intelligence within you, which is your body, right? So you're going to be able to enjoy and be more fulfilled and have deeper relationships, have more presence, purpose, and meaning in your life. And that is worth anything, more than anything money could ever buy you, anything outside could ever give you, right? So that's an incredible benefit. But on the contrary, I want you to start thinking about what can happen to you if you don't start shifting this pattern, and if you don't start living through the heart a little more and don't start connecting to that wisdom within, right? What can happen as a result? And this is not to install any fear within you, but it's important to know the pros and cons, right? The drawbacks and the rewards of any given situation, because your brain learns the best through reflective awareness. So if I just gave you the positives, right, of what you can gain out of it, then it's not going to be enough for your brain to pay attention. It's not going to be enough for your brain to listen and let it land, right? Because usually we learn the most and greatest through our pain, unfortunately. Like something has to happen to where it wakes us up, like a huge trauma, maybe a chronic illness, whatever happens, something to where it knocks us off our daily routine and it forces us to sit with ourselves. And until that happens, usually no change happens, right? We continue to stay in that spiral, in that survival, and our whole life passes. So our hardships and challenges are our greatest gift, because usually that's the only thing that helps us connect back to our soul and that intelligence within. For me, it was my chronic illness, right? For you, it may be bankruptcy. It may be a divorce. It may be your child passes away. It may be sexual abuse or trauma. Whatever it is, something that knocks you off of course. And my goal for you is, if you're not there yet, because we have different flavors of suffering, but if you're not at that extreme point of suffering yet, then I want to give you frameworks to where it starts, this concept starts landing within you, so that you know what's a potential that can happen, right? If you continue this pattern. And is it really worth it to sacrifice your health, your presence, your connection, your love for life, your love for yourself, your love for people, your ability to enjoy the little things in life? Is the way you're living life, the way you're thinking, and the paradigm in which you're going about it, is that worth it to your lasting fulfillment for your soul? And is it worth it to lose your health, your mental state, to lose your soul as a result? And some of you may already be there, so you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? There's only so long that we can live in survival and disconnection and distraction and inauthenticity before our body finally speaks. And your outer life will be a direct reflection of what's going on within you, right? So is it worth losing your health, losing your mental health, losing the people that you love, losing your soul and your love for life, your connection to life, your fulfillment, your presence? Is the way that you're operating through the ego, survival-based consciousness, distraction, numbing, pushing through, disconnection, is that really worth it? And what do you actually want? Right? By the way that you're living right now, rushing, pushing through, competing, fighting, ignoring what's coming from your body, your intelligence, is that ultimately going to get you what you want, right? So I want you to start really thinking about, what the fuck is it that I want, right? What is it that I'm chasing that's forcing me to live in this paradigm from the egoic mind? Survival. Like I said earlier, I guarantee you at the end of the road, no matter how many things you point out externally, I want you, here's an exercise, all right? I want you to take out a piece of paper, and I want you to start jotting down everything it is that you want, okay? And I want you to start with external things. So I want you to start with, what is it that I want? Okay. I want the relationship. I want the partner. I want the cars. I want the money. I want the friends. I want the money. I want to be able to travel. I want the pet. I want the clothes. I want the beautiful body. I want, the list goes on and on, right? I want the private jet. Boom, boom, boom. I want the boat. Whatever. Eventually, you're going to run out of that external list, okay? And when you run out of that external list, I want you to deeply examine it. I'll be like, okay, look at it. Look at the list of shit that you want. Some maybe you could count with your fingers, one hand. Some may have hundreds, right? I don't care how many you have, okay? That's not the point. I want you to deeply examine that list and look at it and put your hand on your heart and breathe into your heart and ask your soul, your higher self, the wisdom within you that knows exactly what you need already. Will this actually fulfill me and make me happy? Will this actually give me what I want as a result? Right? And just breathe into your heart, right? And you may already have experiences to where you have got some of these things. So now you have personal experience. You have references that you can point back to and be like, okay, is this actually what I need or want? Is all of this shit I'm chasing gonna ultimately give me what I want? Ask yourself objectively and completely honestly. And if it does, and if it says yes, that's coming from your ego, right? And I don't claim to know your whole life story, but I've worked with myself, worked with enough people now to where I understand the human being from the inside out. So I know that none of that shit is what you actually want, right? So now I want you to observe your ego. Be like, okay. And I want you to ask your ego a question. If it is a yes, and you think it's a yes, if I get all these external things, then I'll be happy. Then I want you to ask, has it worked in the past? Has anything external given me what I truly wanted in the past? And I want you to ask your ego that objectively, right? And I want you to think back to experiences in the past to where you've gotten something external that you thought you wanted, right? And you thought would give you what you wanted, right? And I'm gonna get to what you really want in a few moments, but stick with me here. Ask your ego, what have I gotten in the past that's actually given me what I truly wanted? Right? And then sit with that question and let the answer come through. Release the judgment with compassion and love. Observe it. And I guarantee you, 100% of the time, it will say, yes, but only temporarily. Yes, but only temporarily. And it may be a complete no for others. But understand that that is a fleeting moment of a feeling. That thing from the external was able to provide for you, and you thought that was what you wanted, right? But you were sadly mistaken. And that's what continues the loop, right? Maybe the next thing will give me what I want. Maybe if I just get more, I'll finally get what I want. Maybe if it's a different person, maybe if it's more money, maybe if it's a different job, maybe if it's a different car, maybe if I get more, right? And you see how most people get trapped and they run on this hamster wheel their entire life, right? Not knowing what they were seeking out there ultimately can never provide them what they actually wanted, right? And now, thank you for being patient with me. I hope everything is landing so far, and I commend you if you've come this far in the video. You're a real one. And I know if you were able to hang with me for an hour, then there's going to be lasting transformation. Because healing takes patience, healing takes courage, and healing takes deep compassion and love, right? And if you didn't love yourself enough to watch this entire hour of me talking, right, then you would have clicked off long ago. So now let's get to the good stuff. So what is it that you actually want? For me, studying the human being psychologically, emotionally, physically, spiritually for over a decade now, I've come with the deep understanding that what we're seeking is a feeling, right? And it's not anything out there, right? What we're seeking is a feeling within us. A feeling of finally feeling safe, loved, and good enough. Write that down and repeat this as many times until it lands. What we're seeking is not anything outside of us. It's a feeling of safety, love, and that we are good enough within ourselves. Let that land. Breathe into that. Let it land. And just sit with that. And I want you to see yourself with compassion and love. That part of you. Go ahead and do this exercise. Close your eyes with me. And just take a breath through the nose. Knowing that you're safe and protected in this space. Continue to breathe slowly and gently through the nose. And I want you to give attention to that part of you that is seeking that love, that is in the pain, that feels like they're not good enough, that doesn't feel safe in their body and in their own presence. And I want you to just send that part of you the deepest love and compassion, knowing that it is a part of you. And it's always within you. And all it wants for you is to listen and connect and return back to it. Take a breath and send more love to that part of you. And seeing that part of you with the deepest love and compassion, and reassuring that part of you that we don't need to operate like this anymore. I know this helped us survive. This helped us stay alive. This helped us get our needs met. But it's okay to choose a new way of thinking, feeling, and living. Taking a deep breath and sending that love and compassion to that inner child within. And I want you to whisper in your mind or out loud, I'm back. I've missed you. And we're going to do a Ho'oponopono prayer from Hawaii and the sacred people of Hawaii. So I want you to continue to connect to that inner child. You may get a visual of what they look like, what they're doing. In your mind's eye, just picture that inner child. The deepest part of you. The part of you that's waiting for you to come back. That's missed your presence. And that's been trying to get your attention for years now. Letting go of the judgment and the fear. And just being with that part of you. With nothing to do, nowhere to go, and nobody to be. Just deep compassion and presence. There's no need to fix or change anything. And I want you to whisper to that inner child and that soul within you, into your heart. I'm sorry for leaving you. Please forgive me for my absence. Thank you for everything, and I love you. I'm sorry for leaving you. I did not know any better. I was afraid. Please forgive me. I'm here now. Thank you for not giving up on me and speaking up. I love you dearly, just as you are. Taking a breath. And one last time. Now I'd like you to implement your name on this last one. So I'll do it for me, as you use your name, okay? I'm sorry, Yuki, for leaving you. I was afraid. Please forgive me. I'm back. Thank you for not giving up on me. And I love you, right here, right now, as you are. Taking another breath. And repeating. I love you and I accept you right here, right now, as you are. You are enough, and you are worthy of love. You don't need to perform or achieve for me to love you. I accept you fully as you are, right here, right now. Gently opening your eyes and meeting us back. As you see, there is that intelligence within you, that inner child, your soul, your higher self, that just wants you to communicate and come back. And once you develop that relationship and start to nurture that part of you and start to communicate with it and start to be there with it, you develop that relationship once again. And once you develop that relationship and that trust, now you start to feel safe in your body. Start to feel safe in your environment. And you're able to generate that love from within that's already within you. And you can receive it now, right? Love is an internal job. And nothing out there is ever gonna make us feel like we're enough, right? And because that love is already within you. And all it wants is a voice, is some space, is you to reconnect with the intelligence. And once we do that, once we generate and let that love flow through us, then we become the love that we were always seeking out there. And we're able to give that to ourselves now, with the God-given divine wisdom within us. And now you're not searching for it out there. And now you're settled. Now your body settles, your brain settles, your body harmonizes, your health comes back, right? You're able to see more clearly. You're able to make decisions out of discernment, sovereignty, and free will, as opposed to impulse, reaction, and trying to compete and impress the people around you, right? Now you take back your power. You become your own medicine. And through that frame, you can continue to go after what you like, but now you're coming from this open, surrendered, gentle state to where now you're able to let your desires come to you. You're able to meet it halfway instead of fighting, competing, and striving towards it, right? And during the process, you're not going to lose your mental sanity, you're not going to lose your health, you're not going to lose your soul through the process. You're able to enjoy the process now. You're able to stay more present. You're able to establish more fulfilling, deep, connected relationships, right? And that's what I want for all of you, right? Don't wait until it's too late, like I did, right? Well, it's never too late, by the way. But don't wait until it's an uphill climb back up to normalcy, right? All your body wants, all that wisdom wants, all your soul wants is a reconnection. Reconnecting mind and body, reconnecting ego and soul, right? And through that marriage, you become a whole individuated person, right? You become a balanced, you become a loving, firm, strong individual. And the world needs more people like that, right? So by you healing, by you reconnecting, by you going within and doing the courageous work that we're talking about here, you automatically, unconsciously begin to affect the collective, your community, your loved ones, your people in your circle, your neighborhood, the entire world, as a result of you changing your vibration, you changing your frequency, by you becoming the type of individual that fills their own state, that fills their own cup, that generates that love from within, right? And radiates it out. Now you're not reaching, now you're not needing, now you're not taking from anyone. You become the vortex of that love that you've been craving, seeking, and chasing your entire life. I hope this video makes sense. I hope this lands. I know I went off on different tangents, but I hope overall the point landed, right? Operating not just from the mind and the ego, coming back into the body, the heart, the soul, marrying to becoming a balanced individual so that we could be more loving, we could live a more fulfilled, purposeful, authentic, and aligned life. And as a result, what we wanted in the first place that we're chasing comes to us more effortlessly. Now we don't have to work so hard for it. Now it's meeting us halfway. And in the process, we're able to keep our soul intact, not lose our soul, and actually enjoy it in the process, keeping our health and our sanity in check, right? So this is probably one of the most important things that shifted my entire life, shifted my entire state, right? So I want this for you. And if you have any questions, DM me at healwithyuki on Instagram. It'll be linked down below. Also, you can email me if you want to go deeper on this work, if you want some one-on-one work, if you want to unravel those patterns, if you want to unravel those deep belief systems, if you want to unravel those states of being and thoughts that are keeping you stuck, whether mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. If you want to cleanse your energy field with the energy healing that I do, if you want to just go deeper into your psychology, into your emotional body, and have transformation from the inside out in mind, body, soul, this work can be for you, but it's not for everybody, okay? I'm only looking to people who are ready for it, who are open to this work, right? Who have shedded some of the resistance already and are open to transform. Because me or any other practitioner or anybody cannot come and save you. That's an inside job. I'm here to hold space for you. I'm here to listen. And I'm here to advise you with everything that I've learned through my own healing journey. But at the end of the day, if you're not ready for it, nobody can help you. All right? Email will be linked down below. Comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe. I want to hear from y'all. How did this video help you? How are you implementing it in your life? And how has this actually sparked change in whatever aspect of your life? You can email me. You can comment down below. Even if you don't want to go deeper with the one-on-one, I want to hear from you, right? Thank you for watching. Till next time, peace.